Greetings and welcome to the 10th and final album rankings episode of 2023. I plan on taking a sabbatical after I do this video. But before I get into today's topic, I want to recap the past episodes. Episode 1, I did the classic Rat lineup featuring albums from Out of the Cellar to Detonator, featuring Stephen Pearcy, Bobby Blotzer, Warren DeMartini, Robin Crosby, may he rest in peace, and Juan Croucier. Episode number 2, I covered the first 6 Dokken records from Breaking the Chains to Shadow Life. I did not care for Shadow Life at all. I ranked it in the bottom half of that list. And it's noted that Jeff Pilson didn't play on the American version of Breaking the Chains. It was Ron Croucier before he joined Rat. Jeff Pilson would eventually join Dokken when Tooth and Nail came out. Episode 3, I covered Extreme, and I thought their latest record, 6, deserves to be in the number 3 position, thanks to such songs as Other Side of the Rainbow and Rise. Episode 4, I covered Cinderella, all 4 of their records. Still think Night Songs was their best effort to date. Episode 5, I covered Great White. Great White was not the same band without Jack Russell. I thought the previous records they did, like Elation and Full Circle, didn't sound right with me. Episode 6, I covered Motley Crue. And despite all the negativity and the controversy surrounding them today, with Mick Mars' lawsuit against them, I'm surprised that it even still talked about, or the fans didn't turn their backs on them. Episode 7, I covered the best metal albums of 1987. Episode 8, I covered the best metal albums of 1986. And episode 9, which was last week, I covered the best metal albums of 1988. Today on album rankings, I'm going to be covering a band who recently played their last show at Madison Square Garden about a week ago, and the band's name is Kiss. Now, Kiss has released 20 studio albums and countless compilation and live records. I'm gonna exclude all the live stuff, the greatest hit stuff, and of course their 4 solo albums. I just want to focus on their studio efforts, so here we go. We start off this list at number 20 with Kiss's 9th record, Music from the Elder. Kiss was in the midst of a transitional phase as the 1980s began. Peter Criss was gone from the group, and he was replaced by Eric Carr. This album was the first to feature Eric Carr on drums, while it would be the last to feature Ace Frehley on guitars. While the single A World Without Heroes was later performed on the band's 1995 Unplugged tour appearance, Kiss had largely avoided live performances of songs from the album following initial promotional appearances in 1981. Critical reception for the album was relatively kind on its release, but the album proved to be a commercial failure and was for a long time largely unpopular with the involved parties. Label and musicians alike, as well as critics, even consider it to be one of the worst albums ever made. Nevertheless, it has garnered some positive reappraisal in recent years, with some critics admitting the record had its issues, but that it was still a concept album worthy of note, thanks to songs like A World Without Heroes, I, and The Oath. Next, at number 19 is Kiss's 8th record, Unmasked, released on May 20th, 1980. It was their first not to feature original drummer Peter Criss, but it featured Anton Fig on drums. Silently, by the way, produced by Vinnie Poncia. Well, songs like Shandy, Talk to Me, and Tomorrow were released as singles. This is the only Kiss album I never ever bought, because I thought the album actually absolutely positively sucked. despite the fact that it went gold in the States. Next, coming in at number 18 is Kiss's 15th studio record, Hot in the Shade. Released on October 17th, 1989. The album includes the biggest hit of the band's non-makeup era, called Forever, which is a power ballad, co-written by Paul Stanley and Michael Bolton, reaching number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. Hot in the Shade showcases more of a straight-ahead sound, following the keyboard-centered pop metal of Crazy Nights, containing 15 songs, the most of any Kiss studio album, and is one of the band's longest, with a running time of nearly an hour. Future band member Tommy Thayer co-wrote 2 songs, Betrayed and the Streets Giveth and the Street Taketh Away. Thanks to songs like Hide Your Heart, which is also a song from Ace Frehley from his Trouble Walking CD, and Rise to It were also hit singles from Hot in the Shade. Next, number 17 is Carnival of Souls, The Final Sessions, which was Kiss's 17th studio record. It was the band's final album with guitarist Bruce Kulick, and their last album with Eric Singer until 2009 Sonic Boom. The album is a departure from the band's classic hard rock style, favoring a dark and dense grunge-oriented sound. It was the band's last album of their Unmasked era. It was recorded between late 1995 and early 1996, but Kiss canceled its release after committing to a reunion tour with the band's original lineup. Since then, bootleg copies were circulated by fans, prompting the band to officially release the material in '97 under the title Carnival of Souls, The Final Sessions. This album was bad. Very, very bad. Next, at number 16 is Kiss's 19th record, Sonic Boom. The first album since 1998's Psycho Circus. It was released on October 6, 2009. Produced by Paul Stanley and Greg Collins. Thanks to songs like Modern Day Delilah, Say Yeah, Never Enough, All for the Glory, and When Lightning Strikes. This album made it to number 2 on the Billboard 200, while it reached number 1 on the other U.S. Versions of Billboard. Number 1 top hard rock album, number 1 independent album, and number 1 top rock albums. Next, at number 15 is Kiss's 20th and final studio record, entitled Monster. Released on October 9th, 2012, Monster was the follow-up to Sonic Boom. Even though it made it to number 4 on Tastemaker Albums chart in Billboard, number 2 on Top Rock Album chart, number 1 on Top Hard Rock Albums chart in Billboard, and made it to number 3 on the Billboard 200. It was not as successful as previous Kiss albums. Then again, why would they be? The only good song worth mentioning is the opening track, Hell or Hallelujah. Next, at number 14 is Kiss's 14th album, Crazy Nights. This was the album notable for its pop metal or glam rock sound, as well as its use of keyboards and synthesizers, which was unlike previous Kiss albums, but very popular in the commercial rock genre at the time. Released on September 21st, 1987, through Mercury Records, since its release has gone platinum, and it had reached the top 20 on the Billboard 200. Crazy Crazy Nights remained the only song that was on their set list past their supporting tour of the album. Although there was one song on the album that had a big hit on MTV, on its Down MTV series, and that was the power ballad Reason to Live. Next, at number 13 is Kiss's 12th studio record, Animalize. Released on September 17th, 1984. At the time of the album's recording, Gene Simmons was pursuing an acting career and was largely absent from Kiss. Paul Stanley later said that he was abandoned when it came down to making Animalize. After informing him without any warning or discussion that he wouldn't be around for the album, Gene went into a studio and crapped out a bunch of demos as fast as he could. Then he was off to do a movie. I think the movie was called Runaway with Tom Selleck. I'm not sure. But Kiss had 2 hit singles from that record, Heaven's on Fire and Thrills of the Night. I also like the songs Burn Bitch Burn. Since Animalize's release, it went to number 19 and has gone platinum. Next, At number 12 is Kiss's third record, Dressed to Kill. Released on March 19th, 1975. Because of the short length of the album, the original vinyl version had long pauses in between each track. Go figure. The one song that was highly noted was the album closer, Rock and Roll All Night, which was re-released as a live version when they released Alive later that year. And it became a huge hit, making it to number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100. Also good songs on there like Rock Bottom, Come Out and Love Me, and She. Next, at number 11, is Kiss's 13th album, Asylum. Asylum was released on September 16th, 1985, and it marked a continuation of the glam metal sound since Animalize. It was the first to feature Bruce Kulick on lead guitar. And thanks to hit songs like Tears Are Falling, Who Wants to Be Lonely, and All Night, Kiss made it to number 20 on the Billboard 200 and was certified gold. Next, we have now made it to the top 10. Coming in at 10 is Kiss's debut record, released on February 18th, 1974. Much of the material in the record was written by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley as members of their pre-Kiss band Wicked Lester. Simmons estimated that the entire process of recording and mixing took 3 weeks, while co-producer Richie Wise said it took only 13 days, less than 2 weeks. Yeah, it's songs like Nothing to Lose, Strutter, Deuce, Cold Gin, Firehouse, and Black Diamond. Also 100,000 Years. Since its release, it made it to number 87 on the Billboard 200 and was certified gold. It wouldn't get popular until they released Alive, like a year and a half later. At number 9 is Kiss's second record, Hotter Than Hell, released on October 22nd, 1974. It was certified gold on June 23rd, 1977, 3 years after its release. Closely. It made it to number 100 on the Billboard 200, thanks to songs like Let Me Go Rock and Roll, Parasite, Hotter Than Hell, and Watching You. It was again produced by Kenny Kerner and Richie Wise, who also produced Kiss's debut record, by the way. There was also songs like Strange Ways and Coming Home. At number 8 is Kiss's seventh record, Dynasty. Released on May 23rd, 1979, it was the first release that all 4 original members didn't perform together on the entire record. Produced by Vinnie Poncia. Because of the songs I Was Made for Loving You and Sure Know Something, there was a reason why this didn't make the top 5. I think about the time they were going in that disco direction, and they were starting to lose its audience. The crowd started turning on them when they went disco, when they were supposed to be a rock and roll band. Next, at number 7 is Kiss's 18th record, Psycho Circus, the first and only album to involve all 4 original members since Dynasty. Released on September 22nd, 1998, Psycho Circus would be Bruce Fairbairn's last production before he died sometime in 1999, a year later. It went into number 3 on the Billboard 200 and was certified gold. I like the songs Psycho Circus, Within, Into the Void, We Are One, You Wanted the Best, and I Finally Found My Way. Next, at number 6 is Kiss's 16th record, Revenge. Released on May 19th, 1992, it was the first to feature Eric Singer on drums following the death of former drummer Eric Carr in November of 91. It was a stylistic departure from the pop-influenced glam metal, which characterized much of the band's 80s output. They went to a much more heavier sound. Since the album reached the top 20 in several countries, it failed to re-establish the group back to the mainstream, and its sales were equal to or less than its predecessors, ultimately only being certified gold in July of 92. The album was also dedicated by Carr, by the way. Thanks to songs like God Gave Rock and Roll to You Too, Unholy, Domino, I Just Wanna, and Every Time I Look at You. This also featured songwriting contributions from former Kiss guitarist Vinnie Vincent. More on him in a bit. Next, We now reach the top 5, and at number 5 is Kiss's 6th record, Love Gun, released on June 30th, 1977. It was certified platinum, and it became the band's first top 5 record in the Billboard 200. When Paul Stanley wrote the song Love Gun, it was played on every Kiss tour since its release. Paul Stanley cited it as a Kiss song that he's the most proudest of. It was the first song he wrote, arranged, and produced in its entirety. The song shares many of its lyrics with The Hunter, written by Booker T and the MGs, and originally recorded by Albert King. But he stole the idea of a love gun from Albert King's version of The Hunter, which Led Zeppelin also nicked from How Many More Times from their debut album. I thought Paul Stanley was writing a song about his dick. Next. At number 4 is Kiss's 4th record, Rock and Roll Over, produced by Eddie Kramer, released on November 11th, 1976. It peaked at number 11 on the Billboard 200. According to Martin Popoff, he called Rock and Roll Over the most childish Kiss album and a disappointment after the amusing ambitions, diversions, and excursions of the Destroyer, lamenting that the return to the wee dumb hard rock cartoons of the early records. Really, Martin? If it's this case, then why did it go platinum? Next. At number 3 is Kiss's 11th record, Lick It Up. Before its 1983 release, the band members appeared on MTV without their trademark makeup. It was their first public appearance without makeup by the band, and their first for Mercury Records, where they had been signed following their departure from Casablanca. The album was certified platinum in the United States, and this was around the time where they were trying to reinvent themselves. And this is the only album to feature Vinnie Vincent on lead guitars as a full-fledged member. More on that in a second. I like the songs Lick It Up, All Hell's Breaking Loose, Fits Like a Glove, and Young and Wasted. Next. At number 2 is Kiss's 10th record, Creatures of the Night. Released on October 25th, 1982. Since its release, it has gone gold and reached number 45 on the Billboard 200. This was around that time that Kiss's popularity has hit an all-time low. By 1982, Kiss's popularity in the United States plummeted due to changing musical taste and their move away from the anthemic hard rock of their earlier material. 1979's Dynasty, while commercially successful, alienated many fans with the disco-flavored track I Was Made for Loving You. Unmasked fell further into that pop rock, power pop oriented sound. It was the first Kiss album not to get platinum status since Dress to Kill. While Music from the Elder, a concept album which I covered earlier, intended to complement a film called The Elder, was never really filmed at all. Despite confidence from producer Bob Ezrin, and this would create the success of 76's Destroyer, the album didn't improve the band's status. Creatures of the Night was a step in the right direction, having Michael James Jackson as the producer, alongside Gene and Paul co-producing with him. Thanks to songs like the title track, and I Love It Loud, I Still Love You, and War Machine, which made it personally for me my pick at the number 2 position. Another thing about Kiss's Creatures of the Night is that Ace Frehley was featured on the album artwork and received credits on the album, but actually writing credits belonged to Vinnie Vincent, who actually filled in for Ace Frehley when Ace went AWOL and left the band, and Vinnie Vincent took over as the Egyptian Ankh. And now at number 1 is Kiss's 4th record, Destroyer. Released on March 15th, 1976. Produced by Bob Ezrin, and produced the hits Shout It Out Loud, Detroit Rock City, Flaming Youth, and of course the power ballad Beth, sung by Peter Criss on lead vocals. It was also songs like King of the Nighttime World, God of Thunder, and Do You Love Me. This was ultimately Kiss's best record, as it would go on to make it to number 11 on the Billboard 200 and would go double, triple platinum in the United States alone, making it Kiss's most successful studio album at that time. Well, that wraps up this episode of Album Rankings. For those who missed out, let me give you a quick recap of the albums I ranked for Kiss. Number 20 was Music from the Elder. 19 was Unmasked. 18 was Hot in the Shade. 17 was Carnival of Souls, The Final Session. 16 was Sonic Boom. 15 was Monster. Number 14, Crazy Nights. Number 13, Animalize. Number 12, Dress to Kill. Number 11, Asylum. Number 10, the debut Kiss album. Number 9, Hotter Than Hell. At 8, it's Dynasty. Number 7 is Psycho Circus. Number 6 is Revenge. Number 5, Love Gun. Number 4, Rock and Roll Over. Number 3, Lick It Up. Number 2, Creatures of the Night. And number 1, Destroyer. I will return on January 3rd with an all-new episode of Album Rankings. Until then, happy holidays, everybody.
No.